So what are the biggest mistakes that homeowners make before they sign a contract? And if a homeowner was only to read 5 sections of a contract, which 5 should they absolutely read and make sure that they have a clear understanding on?
Terms and conditions. What do I want? Terms and conditions. If it has a progress payment situation, how much am I putting down? When do I need to give them X? When do I need to give them Y? When do I need to give them Z? How much am I allowed to hold back at the back end of the deal? If I'm not happy about something, usually that's 10%. Sometimes it's down to 5, depending. And then, and then you go from there. So that would be 1, the terms and conditions. 2 would be your rights under 713 of the statutes.
For anybody listening, what is that?
Well, Chapter 713 is the Florida Statute Chapter that deals with construction lien and other things, but mostly that's construction lien. It is kind of complicated if you're not a lawyer to understand, or a contractor to understand it, but it does give you certain rights and remedies that you're allowed to do. I mean, you could certainly ask that a job be stopped. You could ask for inspections to make sure that the work is being done up to snuff. That these are rights that you have that you may or may not want to use. I mean, look, if it's a simple roof like that, side to side, but if you've got complicated eaves and overhangs and this, that, and the other thing, may pay to hire an independent inspector to go up there and say, this contractor is screwing up this roof, or what? Because you don't want to end up having, at the end of the day, paying that contractor in full, and then within the warranty period turning around and sending a 672 letter, which is a different chapter of the Florida statutes that discusses demands made usually by the owner on the contractor, saying you screwed up and this is how you screwed up, and usually it attaches an engineer's report to it.
So actually, I did an interview with the engineer and special inspector, and I mean, a lot of people will never have to have a special inspector involved in their construction project, but I thought it was a very good conversation for people to know and understand of, once they come to an attorney, what's the next step or what's part of that process, which is at some point bringing in a special inspector. What else would you have homeowners? So you talked about terms and conditions, obviously, payment schedules.
Warranty. What's your warranty?
There you go.
What are the exclusions of your warranty?
Yep. And having a clear understanding.
Remember we talked about the tree falling on the roof?
Yep. Act of God, vandalism.
Well, it's more than act of God. It's more like if you say, look, your ficus tree is too close to this house, and if there is a good storm and that ficus tree gets picked up, it's goodbye roof, and you don't do anything about it, that's the end of it. We had a huge, must have been 70, 80 feet ficus tree at the northwest corner of my property that we made the decision to, because one, it was ripping up the sidewalk, and it was rooting into our plumbing and our inbound plumbing and our outbound plumbing. And boy, I'll tell you something. Durham was not easy to deal with that, because they're not happy about
chopping down trees
being removed and everything like that. It just so happens that the retired head of Durham is now also one of the hearing officers.
Oh, really?
And I called Joe, and he goes, you shouldn't have a problem at all. They're not going to give you a problem. The only thing the county asked me to do is plant a tree to replace it, which we did. So it turned into a more expensive job than I wanted it to be, but it got done. Yeah.
Well, and you also prevented a big problem. I've seen. I haven't seen it firsthand, but you've obviously seen it too. A lot of these videos, or I assume a lot of these videos where they're trimming a tree and they think, or they're chopping down a tree, they plan for it to fall in this direction, and it just so happens to go right on top of the house. So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the warranty, and what we talk about a lot in our presentation is understanding, like not all shingle manufacturers, for example, not all shingle manufacturers are the same, and really understanding the warranty. And we do a good job of calling that stuff out, so that the manufacturer that we work with, they actually have they don't have an exclusion for a named storm. Now, there's some shingle manufacturers that'll offer this big, beautiful warranty, but when you go down to the exclusions, named storm is one of them, and whether your roof is 1 week or 10 years old, 20 years old, if a named storm touches your county, not your house, not your neighbor's house, not your area, if it touches the county, your warranty is gone. So, I had another buddy who was a roofer. He's retired now, but he would he was a pretty like straightforward guy, straight shooter from New York, old school kind of guy. And the homeowner would bring up a warranty, and he would say, Lou, let me ask you, you believe in the Easter Bunny? Just as a way to like discredit it, because, a lot of these manufacturers, just like the insurance companies, they don't want to be on the hook for some of these things. However, a lot of manufacturers have stepped up to the plate and have given much better warranties with a lot less exclusions.
You wanna try to resolve it to everybody's satisfaction. If you're dealing with an insurance company, it's sometimes a little bit easier. To go back to the Hurricane Andrew situation, one of the concerns that I had in that particular house was that I had a very high roof. It's not this it's much steeper, and also very, very long. This part of the house was very, very long, and I actually had Liberty Mutual pay for me to get a engineer to go in there and certify that the trusses were in where they were supposed to be, and the engineer actually said it's a good idea to do that. I'm going to do you need to do some cross bracing in the trusses to reinforce it, but the trusses were in pretty good shape there. So now is that the roofer's fault? No. Is that my GC's in that particular situation? No, it wasn't his fault either. It's just something that I, being in the business, understood to think that, maybe it's the safer thing to do.
No, absolutely.